Good evening and welcome to the April 2024 Board of Zoning Appeals meeting. I'd like to call this meeting to order. We'll start with prayer and pledge. Phil will lead us in the prayer and Scott will lead us in the pledge.
All right. Thank you. If you bow with me, please. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the town of Smyrna, and we thank you for your continual blessings over our leadership and our staff, our first responders, and our residents. And we ask for your guidance during our discussions here today. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, Phil. Thanks, Scott. Do we have any citizen comments this evening? Thank you. Next on the agenda is the election of officers for the next year. Do we have any nominations? I think we have to do it individually, right, Jeff? We'll do a vice chair. Yeah, do for chair. Yep. Nominations for vice chair.
I'll nominate Steve Sullivan for chairman.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Steve Sullivan approved for chair.
I'll nominate Jay Michelson for vice chair.
I'll second.
Any discussion on that one? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next on the agenda is the approval of minutes. I presume that you've read through those. Any discussion or changes that need to be made?
I've read through those minutes, and I find them to be in order, and I move for their approval.
Okay, we got a motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. New business.
Yeah, the first item is Surrey Homes, 2005 South Burn Street. This is a request for setback variance. This is actually several different setback variances. It's a new construction, single-family dwelling. It's Lot 2 of the Oak Meadows subdivision. Basically, it's on three sides, or really four sides, I guess. Really, well, I guess technically only three sides. One's a corner. The left side, there's a 2/10 of a foot and 6/10 of a foot side setback variance on it, which that translates to about 2.4 inches and 7.2 inches is when you convert those to inches. And then on the back side, you have about 4/10 of a foot there, about 4.8 inches. Then you have the back corner, which is, I believe they were treating that as a side setback. We would look at that as a rear setback, just because it is the back of the house. It's kind of, there's the property boundary actually angles there. It's about 6.8 feet from the property line. The rear setback requirement is 10 foot. The side is 7.5. Either way, it's over the setback there, but it's that back corner. If you're looking at the house, the back right corner. And then on the front of the house there on facing South Burn Street, it's 4/10 of a foot there too. So again, about 4.8 inches. This is in a PRD, planned residential district. It's about 12,000 square foot lot, just over 12,000. The minimum side setback in this PRD is 7.5. The rear is 10, and the front is 35. There was a site plan submitted for construction, which did show the dwelling meeting the setback requirements. But after construction was completed and there was a foundation survey done, that was when it was discovered that there were the issues with the setbacks, which was, again, after the fact. There is a public utility and drainage easement on the back, the side and back of the property there. It's about 7.7 feet in width at the point where the residence does encroach on the easement. Encroaches on the easement about 9/10 of a foot. Public Works has reviewed the plot plan for that property and did state they would prefer the foundation not to be located within the easement, but are okay with it due to the drainage system being a pipe structure. No other structures may be located within that easement, though. There are several standards that the board does need to look at when considering granting a variance. I'll go through those. The first one, the particular physical surrounding shape, topographic conditions of the specific property involved that would result in a particular hardship upon the owner as distinguished from a mere inconvenience. If the strict application of this ordinance were carried out, must be stated. Staff does find that the property does have varying topography with a drainage easement along the northern property line. However, that would not affect the construction of a residence, as shown from the originally submitted site plan by the developer. The lot also has a non-uniform shape when compared to other rectangular lots within with the northern lot line in conjunction with the drainage easement. This creates a constricted area of the lot for development. Number two, the conditions upon which the petition for a variance is based would not be applicable generally to other property within the same district. The property has no distinguishable features that would deem the petition for a variance, as the lot has ample space to locate the structure to meet setbacks. Variance will not authorize activities in the zone district other than those permitted by the ordinance, and this use, obviously, as a single-family dwelling is allowed in this PRD. It is required to meet setbacks, but is certainly would not authorize any use that's not already authorized. Financial returns only shall not be considered as a basis for a variance. The property owner has not identified financial returns as a reason for requesting the variance. The structure is completed and is ready to move in, but they have not identified as a reason for the variance. Number five, the alleged difficulty or hardship has not been created by any person having an interest in the property after the effective date of this ordinance. And the applicant is the owner of the property and the builder of this dwelling, so they are involved there. Number six, the granting of the variance requested will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied by this ordinance to other land, structures, or buildings in the same districts. Staff finds that the variance requested would provide the applicant with special privilege denied by the ordinance to other lands due to a structure encroaching upon the setbacks. Number seven, the variance is the minimum that will make possible the reasonable use of the land, building, or structure. Staff finds that the requested setback variance may not be the minimum to make reasonable use of the structure due to the ability for a dwelling to be constructed and meet setbacks. The granting of the variance will not be detrimental to public welfare or injurious to other property or improvements in the area in which the property is located. Staff does find that the variance would not be detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to other property. Number nine, the proposed variance will not impair an adequate supply of light and air to adjacent property, increase congestion in public streets, increase danger of fire, endanger public safety, or substantially diminish or impair property values. Staff find that the variance would not have any of those effects. Number 10 is not applicable in this case. So conclusion, staff does find that this property does have unique circumstances with some varying topography on the property, as well as the presence of a 10-foot drainage easement and an abnormally shaped lot to constrict development to the western portion of the parcel. While the property is a corner lot, it does have ample space to locate a dwelling while meeting setbacks. The applicant did submit a site plan prior to construction with a floor plan that met all setback requirements. However, the house was constructed, appears to be at least constructed larger than shown on the approved site plan. It doesn't meet those setback requirements. If the board does approve the request, the applicant will be required to pay the difference in permit fees from the originally submitted site plan to the site plan which was constructed. And we'll also need an updated site plan with square footage shown for all areas under roof to ensure that the fire code compliance is met. We did have in your packet the original, in addition to the application, we had the original site plan that was submitted, as well as the boundary, or not the topo survey, but the foundation survey that did show where the setbacks violations. We did ask for and did get some additional information there to show the exact encroachment onto the drainage easement, because the drainage easement isn't uniform either. It's not 10 feet on either side of the line or something like we typically have. And so that's what we look for, and that's where we get to that 9/10 of a foot encroachment into that drainage easement. Did take a few pictures today, so we'll show those to you. This is just the house looking at it from the road. In that front left corner, where the garage is where the encroachment is for that on that side, on the front of it. This is looking at the side of the house The back corner, as you can see, which is, it's actually a covered porch area there in that back corner, is where the encroachment is into the drainage easement as well as on that setback. This is just looking at the back of the house. It's really this area is there. You're about 4/10 of a foot, really, where that jut out area is there on the far part of the house as you're looking at it in this picture. That corner there is where you have the 4/10 of a foot encroachment. And it kind of angles, the way the lot angles, the other side of that part of it is the rear is okay. And then this is the front, the left side, which varies from being 2/10 over to 6/10 over as you go back on this side here. So I believe that's all that I have.
Thanks, Kevin. Anybody have any questions for Kevin or discussion? Go ahead and take this time to close the Board of Zoning Appeals and open a public hearing for anyone who wants to speak for or against this request. If you do so, please step up to the mic and state your name and address.
Hey, how are you guys? Oliver Constable, Surrey Homes, 3781 Rock Springs Road. Just wanted to say we obviously didn't mean to do this. We think the house probably got rotated a degree. I think it was 8 square foot larger than we submitted. We're trying to figure out why this has happened because we build a lot in Smyrna. We're building a lot in Smyrna, and we plan on building a lot more in Smyrna, so we don't want to come back here. So I just wanted to apologize and say, this was a genuine mistake. We actually reported ourselves on this. And if you got any questions.
Anybody have any questions for Oliver?
No, thank you.
I think the only question that I have, sorry,
Yeah.
and I'm not quite sure who to direct it to, is I understand that there's piping involved in the drainage, but how much is that going to affect the house being in the drainage easement? Like eventually?
It shouldn't. It said the drainage is underground.
It's all underground?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
It's concrete pipe.
And I think we have it, I think we've had that information, I can't recall. Yeah, he's almost a foot, 9/10 of a foot into the easement.
Okay.
The easement is actually, or the pipe, again, is not within, is further away than that, than the property line is there, because the pipe is actually angled within the easement. He's closer to probably 8 or 9, instead of being, 6 or 7 feet from that pipe. He's actually about 9 feet from the pipe, because the pipe is actually more onto the neighboring lot there than where that encroachment is than he is on this particular lot. So,
Okay. My biggest concern was just that there was going to be a
Sure.
problem later
Right.
with that.
with the ground or something else eroding or something that causing a problem for the house. I understand what you're saying, yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak for or against? Okay, at this time, I'll close the public hearing and reopen the Board of Zoning Appeals. Any other discussion?
Well, my comments would be, this is one of our nightmare scenarios. PRDs are planned down to the inch. So, normally these lots, though, when we have these planned developments, they're normally squared off lots, very precise. Honestly, don't know on a regular size lot. I don't know what we would find to help get it through, because there's no actual hardships there, especially if, you know what I'm talking about, where we're lining up on the planned districts. After I really studied this one pretty hard, and this is my thoughts on it. I'm favoring approving the request to give them the variances. I'm gonna tell you why. Number one, it is a unique lot, right? There's varying topography. It's a very unique shape. It's abnormal. So, and we're talking about many of these measurements are literally a couple of inches. The one thing that really put me over the top on it was if Public Works, and we've had this issue over the years, if Public Works had an issue where there's going to be a drainage problem, we have, to me, we have a whole different issue, and I'm glad that you addressed that, because that's the main concern is, will there be an issue not only for this home, but any other potential homeowners around there? And our Public Works Department, I trust their input. If they say that they're okay with it, I trust that, because, their opinion's been golden thus far. So, of course, I'm not going to make the motion at this time. I'd like to hear if there's any other conversation. If there's not, I'd be happy to make one. I'm going to favor approving the request this time because of there is enough uniqueness to the lot on this one. It's not a standard. It's abnormally shaped, varying topography. On this one, I feel comfortable because Public Works is okay with the drainage issue. I feel comfortable allowing this to happen. However, I want to maintain in the future, because we have a lot of building going on. In PRDs, anybody's off, even a fraction of a foot, anything in there, there is no guidelines for us to approve it. So it's a nightmare scenario. Last thing I want is for any home builder, anyone to actually have to consider removing. You know how what a major job that would be to actually have to correct this 2 or 3 inches. In this case, because Public Works is okay, I don't feel the need for us to do that on this particular application, and I'm comfortable approving the requests.
And most of the setback variance requests are a couple inches outside of the one that's 3.5.
Honestly,
3.5
yeah, that's
foot.
exactly right.
And the 3.5 foot setback clearance is on the back corner of that covered patio. It's the corner of the covered patio, not the
It's not the main structure of
living
the house.
Right.
quarters of the house. So, however, with all my thought, just devil's advocate, the layout of the land and the topography of the land and all that stuff was a known. That's not new. It's not like somebody wants to put a shed and put it off in the corner in an existing house. So, it was a known issue. Yeah, I get that the mistake happened, angles. That's just the devil's advocate to the
Sure,
why you
sure.
could. It's the why you
Well,
out of the 1
that-
through 10.
that's really my main comment about if this had been a normal lot that normal PRDs have, where they're just squared off. I mean, there's not much there.
Right.
I'm trying to find something, because that is such a major thing to do over 0.2 of a foot and 0.3 of a foot. If this was major, that would be a different story. If we're really into easements and we're encroaching these lines by 3-4 feet all the way around over here, and then Public Works says, hey, there's going to be a future issue with this drainage, that'd be an issue for me. I feel comfortable
But isn't
approving this one because Public Works is okay with the drainage.
with the 3 foot drainage
Yeah.
easement.
Well, yeah, on that one side.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the rest of them are smaller. So, like I said, Public Works has always been the factor for me, because the issue is getting into that easement. So if they're okay with it, which they say they are, I'm personally okay with granting this.
And I know that all items that come before the board are looked at independently.
Yes, sir.
Does this open doors approving this for future builders to say, well, I made a mistake?
No, I think y'all have articulated,
Okay.
like Bill said, I think if it was perfectly square and flat,
Yep.
probably be in a bad situation.
Because we had a weird angled easement and
Right.
all that stuff. Okay.
There's no hardship on something that is that cement. There is enough here where you could see the way that the topography is and stuff, that you could be a couple inches. I'm not saying it's acceptable. I'm saying I'm okay to get past this one, because after further inspection, Public Works doesn't foresee a future problem. If they did, it'd be a different scenario. But that's why I feel comfortable doing this one.
Any other discussion? Do I have a motion?
I will move that we approve the request for the 2 side setback variances, the 2 rear setback variances, and the front setback variance. And just to make sure I've gotten these staff notes, I'll go ahead and say as presented, including staff comments, but I'll go ahead and mention the one on the bottom, that the applicant will be required to pay the difference in permit fees from the originally submitted site plan to the site plan which was constructed.
And to update the site plan.
Yeah, we need to know the total square footage on the roof, just because it's getting really close to the point where a higher fire suppression is required as far as the gallons per minute and all that kind of stuff.
So updated site plan with the square footage of all the areas to ensure fire code compliance is met. I'm sure everything's okay with that, right? Okay, that's great.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries to approve the setback variance request. Number 2, Kevin?
All right. The next request, if I can get to it, is Tao Nguyen and Thu Pham, and I hope I pronounced those names correctly. I apologize if I didn't. 2000 East McLaughlin Street. It's in R3 district. They have requested a rear setback variance of 3 feet for a deck. This is, the lot is about 16,000, a little over 16,000 square feet in size. The minimum rear yard setback requirement in the R3 district is 8 feet for accessory structures such as this. A permit was applied for through the Codes Department with a site plan of the proposed deck. It was approved for construction. The deck was in the middle of construction when a stop work order was issued by the Coast Department due to the deck encroaching upon the rear setback. The deck has been built per dimensions approved on the site, provided on the site plan. However, the distances on the site plan were measured to the concrete ditch edge, not the parcel line. Measurements with parcel data show the approximate distance from the parcel line to the edge of the concrete ditch is about 2.5 to 3 feet. So they were off by 2.5 to 3 feet. So in addition, there is a drainage easement in the rear of the lot, and Public Works again has granted permission for that structure to remain as far as the encroachment onto that setback for the drainage easement. Again, same scenario as the previous request regarding the standards that you'll need to find. So I'll go through those. Number 1, again, the particular physical surrounding shape, topographic conditions of the specific property involved that would result in a particular hardship upon the owner as distinguished from a mere inconvenience if the strict application of the ordinance were carried out. Those must be stated. Staff does find that the property does have varying topography with a 10-foot concrete drainage easement along the northern property line. However, that would not affect the construction of a deck on the property. The conditions upon which the petition for a variance is based would not be applicable generally to other property within the same district. This property has no distinguishable features that would deem the petition for a variance, as the lot has ample space to locate the structure to meet setbacks if it were reduced in length. The variance will not authorize activities in the zone district other than those permitted by this ordinance, and that's not the case here, as obviously a deck would be allowed on the back of the home. Financial returns only shall not be considered as a basis for granting a variance, and that applicant has not identified financial returns as a reason. Number 5, the alleged difficulty or hardship has not been created by any person having interest in the property after the effective date of the ordinance. The applicant is the homeowner and the applicant for the building permit as well. Number 6, the granting the variance requested would not confer on the applicant any special privilege that's denied by this ordinance to other land, structures, or buildings in the same districts. Staff does find that the variance requested would provide the applicant with special privilege denied by the ordinance to other land, structures, buildings in the R3 district due to the structure that is encroaching upon setbacks. Number 7, the variance is the minimum that will make possible the reasonable use of the land, building, or structure. Staff finds that the requested setback variance may not be the minimum to make reasonable use of the structure for the proposed use due to the ability to reduce the size of the deck to meet requirements. Number 8, granting of the variance will not be detrimental to the public welfare, drift, or other property improvements in the area. We find that the variance would not be detrimental to the public welfare and drift to other property. And number 9, the proposed variance will not impair an adequate supply of light and air to adjacent property, increase congestion in public streets, increase the danger of fire, endanger public safety, or substantially diminish or impair property values. We find the variance would not have any of those above effects. Again, number 10 is not applicable here. So in conclusion, staff does find that this property does not have unique circumstances with the exception of some variant topography on the property. The applicant did submit a site plan prior to construction. The site plan was approved by codes staff. Upon construction of the deck, a stop work order was issued due to the structure not meeting setback requirements despite being constructed per the dimensions provided on the site plan. If approved and the deck is covered and attached to the house in the future, a new setback variance would have to be required at that time. Since this request is treated as an accessory structure with a minimum 8-foot setback requirement, if they were to put a roof over it or cover it and attach it to the house, and it becomes part of the house, it would have to be 20 feet, not 8 feet. So I do have a few pictures. This is just a shot of the house from the front of the house. This is the deck in question. Obviously, you can see the concrete ditch to the side of, or to the rear of the side of the picture, rear of the deck there. And then this is just another shot of the same area. And I think that's all that I have.
Thanks, Kevin. Let me go ahead and open the public. At this time, we'll close the Board of Zoning Appeals and open a public hearing for anyone who would like to speak for or against this request. If you'd like to, please step to the podium, state your name and address.
Yes, I speak on the behalf of the address 2000 East McLaughlin Lane in Smyrna. To the best of my knowledge, to the best of our knowledge and belief, that we have complied with the town codes and ordinance. So after that, we obtained the permit approval of the deck and starting to build it. After we get the permit, and then the inspection came to inspect the layout of the pole installation and approve it. And then 6 months later, like about a month ago, so the inspector come back and said that we can't do it anymore and have to change the plan. So I think that's because we wish that we have been informed of the code ordinance before the approval of the permit, because the deck is almost done. It's about 90% done already. So we hope that we can proceed and move forward with the layout that has been approved by the town before. Please.
Anyone have any questions?
We need her name just for the record.
What was can you repeat your name again?
Kathy,
Kathy?
yes, my name is Kathy.
Kathy, last name?
Nguyen.
Gwen? And this is just a standard deck, not covered, there's no roof?
As you can see, that is it's like a part of that is covered, but the rest of that is just a standard deck.
Okay.
There's nothing covered.
So,
And as you can see, it's almost done.
all of that is new?
Yeah. We got the permit before we started to do anything. And we passed a lot of the inspection as well. So
So that whole addition is new, Kevin, or just the deck piece?
Yeah, I think I'll defer to Christie on that piece.
My name's Christy Bory, I'm the codes director. The addition was actually approved on a prior permit, okay? So that one went through a process of 5 different site plans before we finally approved it. It's been in process for a while. It's fine. The deck itself, they came in for another permit to do that. And then that's when it went through the process. And the site plan, of course, he's already told you. So the addition itself with the top is fine. It is at the maximum. And like I said, it took 5 different review processes before they finally submitted the site plan from SEC for that addition. So it is fine. It's just the deck portion that seems to be the issue this morning.
I have a question on that, just for clarification. So it looks like that when they looked to get the permit for the decking portion, that when they measured, it was measured from the incorrect placement? Is that,
Yes, the site plan that was reviewed by my predecessor, it was the understanding, based on what they'd given us, that they would have a 20-foot easement. But that's not, obviously. And then we got a complaint from the Public Works Department, who I assume received a complaint from someone else, I don't know. And that's when we went out there, and I had the stop work order put on the deck portion only. The addition is fine.
And I know what you're getting at is that the distances on the site plan saying here, the confusion is the measurement of, is it to the concrete ditch edge and not the parcel line?
Right.
So there's a legitimate issue of confusion from the applicant that they thought they were okay. I'm just, that's
Yes.
kind of what you're asking is, they thought they were okay with it because of the measurement was going to the wrong line.
right?
And that's, I think that's what we've
Who
been
measured
told.
it though? Who came up with the measurement from the wrong line? The applicant or?
Yeah, I think it
Yeah, it
came,
would be on the site plan that they
It would have
submitted.
been on the
So I
original.
thought. Okay. We can close it.
I think we're good.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but I just need to be clear about the confusion that, you guys just mentioned about the plan. I believe that when we submit the plan, our plan is the room and including the deck as well.
This,
What I was asking was, just for clarification on our part, that when the measurement was taken, there's actually a spot on the property line where you're supposed to measure from, whereas it looks like that the measurement was taken actually from the drainage ditch and not the property line. Would that be correct?
that's my understanding, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
thank you. Anyone else like to speak for or against? If not, I'll close the public hearing and reopen the Board of Zoning Appeals. Any discussion?
Kevin, have y'all received any complaints about the deck from neighbors or?
I personally don't know, I don't know if you have or
I
not.
apologize, what was that?
Have y'all received any complaints from any of the neighbors about the deck or?
We got a complaint from the Public Works Department, and so I assume that they got a complaint, but I do not know.
But you don't? Okay.
So,
They could have just been doing routine.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Drop by
Thank
and
you.
noticed it.
and I do have the site plan for the addition that was submitted before for the addition. You have the site plan for the deck,
Correct.
so the addition was.
And since we're just doing the deck, I think we're okay with those.
On the copy of the site plan that we have in our packets, the copy of it, there's an asterisk note at the bottom. After speaking with the applicant, the dimensions provided on the site plan are measured to the edge of the concrete ditch, not property line. What was the timing of when that note was done? Was that done? See what I'm saying? If you got that information before or after is a big deal. Like I'm wondering, when did this speaking
Right.
to the applicant happen? If it was.
Was that when they did the stop work
Right.
order, or was it before?
Right, and I think the issue is we don't know because we've had a change. So that's what I was trying to figure out. What is the timing of that? No, there's no date on it. And it says after speaking, and it was obviously someone that wrote on
I'm
top
gonna
of that.
assume that was after the stop work order, because that's when they would have come in and
Because
started
that would have
talking
been
about
clear if it were up front.
applying
They
for
would
the
have put a
BZA.
note that said, hey, we spoke to them, and they said, and then they still did it. But that's different if it's afterwards. I'm just saying I can see some confusion in there. I can.
Now it shows up.
But we
Any
don't
more?
know.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't know. But Kevin's saying he even assumes it might probably afterwards. Well, then that's
Which
after
is probably
speaking with.
explaining why it got
Right.
stopped.
So,
Yeah.
I'm just wondering how much confusion was there up front? I mean, obviously, we have new folks in there now, and I know we're explaining things completely different. I'm just
Sure.
saying, but what happened then, I don't know.
Well, and I can, Mitch is out here, but he's watching us on TV somehow, so he actually texted me, and that is his note, which I knew
Okay.
that was in his handwriting, the one where the asterisk is. He said he noted it on their site plan while he was writing the report, so that would have been done, last week sometime.
Yeah, that's after that's.
After they've already
stopped.
stopped, saying that's how they came up.
I was
with
just
the
saying, just
distance.
reading it, I'm like, okay, if that was up front, that's a completely different story than having it.
Well, and on this, like it's showing existing concrete ditch. And then you have this drawn out
20 feet to the deck.
with the 20 feet to the ditch.
Right, from the deck, and
Mhm.
we're at 23, or 17, I guess. Sorry.
I don't know if we
Is that
actually,
math right?
I don't know if we actually got, yes, it would be if that's correct. I don't know, we actually got to that measurement. Didn't really say what it was, just that it would need this 3-foot setback.
So if you look at 20 feet, looking for 3-foot setback, which means they're 3 feet into that 20 foot already. And 20 foot's the minimum, right? That 20 foot off that ditch.
Well, 20 feet, for covered, yes, 20, well, it wouldn't be 20 feet's the total easement, I believe. I don't have the plat in front of me, but
You're having the problem I'm having. The site plan's extremely hard to follow with what we approve versus what it says for someone to be
Correct.
clear. I'm not clear, and I'd read plans a lot.
So this is the deck, and that's the extension.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, like this is that back of the
Yeah.
house thing that
This is saying
happened.
the deck was 20 feet from the ditch, and we're saying that it's
Yeah.
17 feet from the ditch.
yeah, the easement is basically 10 feet onto the property line, and the addition is 20 feet. It's actually measured at 20 and a half feet from the property line to the addition, so you're 6 inches good there to the addition. And so, as far as because it has to be 20 feet because it's a covered portion of the house. So, yeah, the concrete ditch is, just looking at I'm looking at the plan that was submitted for the addition. And the concrete ditch is actually somewhat into that property line, but not completely, so. So I don't know what the dimensions are on the deck, but do we have that anywhere? I don't see that anywhere. It's
Right.
50, the deck is 15 feet
Supposed to be
deep.
15.
Yeah, so assuming it's 15 feet deep, then you're about 5.5 feet from that property line. Because you're 20 and a half feet from the property line to the port, or to the addition. So you're 5.5 feet from so this would be a 2.5 foot
Oh,
variance is what would be required, because they should be,
Right.
well, they could go 12.5 foot deck and
That's different.
meet the
So-
ordinance.
Does that mean that these guys looked at this just like that and said that this measurement here,
Is the distance from that ditch to the front of the deck.
and that they are okay with it, is that what they're saying?
That's
They've
it.
seen that?
Mhm.
It's a factor. I don't know, man. It's the confusion.
Mm-hmm.
So that last comment you had that was in the first staff analysis, it does say that Public Works has granted permission for the structure to remain. They're not seeing an issue. They solved
Correct.
that right there, and they're not seeing an issue. Like they said, is that correct?
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct. So they would be, for 15 feet, you're 10-foot easement, so you're 5.5, I'm sorry. My numbers are getting
Yeah,
mixed
it's,
up.
Right.
Yeah.
it's 5.5 feet.
They're
Or-
5.5 feet from the property line to the edge of the deck, which would be 4.5 feet into the drainage easement. because it's a 10-foot easement, and but they're okay with that, so.
So it's actually a little more even than the 2.5 to 3 feet that it has listed in here.
Using ink pen math, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're 4.5 feet into the drainage easement, 5.5 feet from the property line. So it's technically a 2.5 foot setback variance, because they would have to be 8 feet off, and they're only 5.5, so.
Any more questions? Or do I have a motion? This one's tough because the numbers are weird.
That's my problem with it.
Well,
Is that the number's nothing, and even in here, it's very confusing to say, but that's why I said that they see that, and Public Works is okay with what they see.
yeah. Well, my question is, like, we know that this is that original bump out where they had to be at least 20 feet off. They have it listed right here showing that the deck is supposed to be
No,
20 feet off of that as well.
no, I think this dimension here of 20 feet is showing from the easement to the back of the structure.
So that's where we're confused.
No, this is the deck.
I
Well,
agree.
he's saying that 20 foot from here to here.
Yeah,
They were submitting, they were maybe 15 foot into it, which means that without a discussion on this, they seemingly could have thought it was okay. Do you see what I'm saying? That's
Yeah, I
what
see
I'm
where you're
reading
going.
is, it says that 20, if you go from here to here, which goes back to that addition that got on, then you see they got 15 feet from there to the proposed open porch right there.
Right.
It looks like they could have felt they had permission to be within 5.5 feet of that.
Are we
Okay, I
saying?
see what you're saying.
You see what we're saying,
I see
Kevin?
what you're saying.
There's a lot of confusion on how you could have interpreted what approval was. That's why it was so important to say, when did this note down here happen? Is what I'm saying to you. Like, if I would have submitted that and didn't have this exact information, I'm just saying, it says 20.5 all the way to the back of that existing new structure. It says right here 15 feet. I would have thought it's okay to be within that. I mean, that's just,
There's a lot of.
Do you see
is there any written
openness for
part of the permit
interpretation.
that says it in a different way, or is it spelled out, or is it, there's not? So there's not like words to go with the pictures and say, hey, but you can't go closer than 10 feet. I'm saying there's not. See, that's where I'm struggling to like go, you can't do this, is because I am confused after reading that. I would feel like it's okay. I'm just saying, based on what I've heard right now, and without anything written that says, hey, here's a written out permit, remember these things, you can't be within 10 feet from that easement. Here it says 20.5, there's 15 foot, that's 5.5 feet, man. That's really close to exactly what we just discussed is where they're at. So if you followed that plan, that's it.
This site plan is submitted by the applicant,
Yes,
so those are their dimensions.
yeah. The only thing it's not
That's the-
from the applicant is that Mitch's note where the asterisk
On
is.
the
That's the
bottom.
dilemma, so like somebody who does dimensioning, you got that hash mark there and you have that hash mark there which represents that vertical dimension. And the only place to write it on the left side of that line, not in the deck, is out there. But this was submitted by the applicant, they knew the rules were to stay within the boundary. I mean, they submitted this.
I mean, I'm just saying, if I turn that in and I didn't have anything distinguishable to tell me differently,
Right.
that says 20.5 from that point to that point, I can see the mark.
Mm-hmm.
And then I see 15 here, I would assume it's okay. I'm just being fair on that.
You feel fair enough to make a motion?
Well, I want to see what the rest of the board thinks. I mean, at this point, I'm favoring approval for one reason, and that is that this is absolutely confusing. I would be confused if I were the applicant on this. And again, Public Works did look at it, and that's why I said to Kevin, it's very important. Number one, you asked if there was a complaint from anybody. We have no record of a complaint from the public. Number two, I said, did Public Works see that? And did they say that's okay and that's not going to be a problem? And the answer I just got was yes, that's okay. Word literally says that they're okay with it. So I don't like this at all, for the record. We don't want anything built beyond where it's supposed to be, but this is really messy. My personal understanding of what I'm seeing, I would have a problem. I'm going to move to approve this setback of 3 feet for a deck. And, you know, the hardship, you could say topography, but the hardship might be just the confusing process of dealing with our approval process on this. I would be confused with what I'm staring at, so I'm going to say, I'm going to move for this to be approved because Public Works said they don't have a problem with it. We need to, I will notate at the bottom, though, it says if approved, just note that in the deck is ever covered and attached to the house in the future, you're going to have a new setback variance. It'll be required since the request is treated as an accessory structure with a minimum 8-foot setback. So just that, like that, is what we're talking about. It can't be covered. That's a whole nother animal, right?
And topo,
And topography.
and topography. as
Yeah,
well.
and the topography, yes, sorry. I thought, I had talked, it's so long to get all that in, I thought I said it, so, and the photography, yes, yeah. And with staff comments.
When they took the pictures, do we have any idea how the boards are run?
The pictures I took today, I did not walk over there, so I did not look to see if they're run perpendicular to the house or parallel to the house. I do not know. I'll have to ask the applicant on that.
So,
What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, we have a motion. Is there
Yeah, I have no
more-
second, so it's not even good, it's not good yet.
Any more discussion, or do we have a second? Or do you need to answer yours, or are you just curious?
Well, my curiosity is how difficult would it be for, like, if the boards are running parallel to the house, how difficult would it be for them to take a few boards off and back it up? I know it's almost finished and
Yeah, I don't know.
there is some question, but do you know how the boards are run?
Sorry?
Do you know how the
But-
planks
but
on the
close.
deck are run? Are they, oh, sorry.
No, you're fine. Go ahead and, real quick, close the Board of Zoning Appeals and open a public hearing real quick. If you can step back up. She has a question.
How are the boards, the planks on the deck, are they run parallel to the house or are they perpendicular to the house?
I'm not sure about that, but I believe it's parallel.
Parallel to the house?
I'm not sure, but I believe so.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
Close the public hearing, reopen the Board of Zoning Appeals. We have a motion on the floor for approval.
I'll second his motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any more discussion, or
Do you do a roll call on
we
this
need a
one?
roll call?
There's a form, you will know.
Yeah.
pretty quick.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries 3-1.
Good discussion.
Okay. We'll go, item number 3, Kevin.
Next request is also a setback variance, John and Stacy Robinson, 101 Westfield Court. This is also in the R3 district. It is a corner lot. It's addressed to Westfield Court because where the house does face, but it also has frontage on Oak Haven Drive. It's about 8.34 hundredths of an acre. Again, it does have 2 front setbacks, so it has two road frontages. Minimum setback is 35 feet in the R3 district. However, when this plat was recorded in 1988, there was a 40-foot front setback at that time. And so this house was built meeting a 40-foot setback, not a 35-foot setback. There is a 20-foot drainage easement on the western property line, which is to remain clear, does not propose to be encroached upon. Applicant is requesting to build a 30-foot diameter above-ground pool to be placed behind a fence, so it is to be out of sight from the public right-of-way. Again, we will have several standards similar to what we just looked at, so I'll go through those. Number 1, Again, the particular physical surrounding shape or topographic conditions of the specific property involved, which would result in a particular hardship upon the owner is distinguished from a mere inconvenience. If the strict application of the ordinance were carried out, staff does find that the property does not have any unique circumstances in regard to physical surroundings, shape, or topographic conditions. Conditions upon which the petition for a variance is based would not be applicable generally to other property within the same district. This property is a corner lot. It does have 2 front setbacks to meet for any structure. In addition, at the time the plat was recorded, a 40-foot setback was required compared to the 35-foot requirement, which is what is required now. So those 2 front setbacks did create a constricted area for any structures to be placed in the rear yard. The variance will not authorize activities in the zone district other than what those permit by this ordinance, which offset pool would be allowed in this district. It's what's been issued. Financial returns only shall not be considered as a basis for granting the variance, and they have not indicated that. They did indicate that the pool has been paid for, though. Number 5, the alleged difficulty or hardship has not been created by any person having an interest in the property. The applicant is the homeowner, but was not involved with the creation of the lot or the construction of the residence. Number 6, the granting of the variance will not confer on the applicant any special privilege. It's denied by the ordinance to other land structures or buildings in the same district. Staff does find that the variance requested could provide the applicant special privilege denied by the ordinance to other lands or structures or buildings in the district due to a structure encroaching upon a front setback. Other properties in the same zoning district have requested variances from the BZA in previous years in similar situations and have received approval. Number 7, the variance is the minimum that will make possible the reasonable use of the land, building, or structure. Staff finds that the requested setback variance may be the minimum to make reasonable use of this structure for the proposed use due to there not being any other location on the property for which the desired pool could be located to meet setbacks. Number 8, granting of the variance will not be detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to other property improvements in the area. We find it would not be detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to other property improvements. Number 9, proposed variance will not impair an adequate supply of light and air to adjacent property, increase congestion in public streets, increase danger of fire, endanger public safety, or substantially diminish or impair property values. We would find that would not have any of those effects. Again, number 10 is not applicable in this case. So in conclusion, staff does find this property is a corner lot in which 2 front setbacks are required to be met for any structure. At the time of the recording of the plat for this subdivision, a 40-foot front setback was required compared to the 35-foot required if the plat were recorded today. There is an existing fence which the structure would be located behind, and no encroachment is shown on the existing drainage easement. Due to the size of the proposed pool as well as the corner lot with setback requirements, the pool is unable to be located anywhere else on the property to meet all setback requirements without variance. Again, took a few pictures. This is the property in question. You see the house there. This is from kind of the corner of the 2 streets. You can see the existing fence on the right side of the picture there, and this pool would be proposed behind that fence. Again, this is just looking more directly at the area, again with the fenced area there. And then this is looking at it from Oak Haven Drive, looking at the side of the house, again with the fenced area there. You can see the side of the house where this pool would be located. And that's all that I have.
Thanks, Kevin.
I have a quick question for Gavin. Just because we just love public education about fences and setbacks, it's so much fun. There is a fence there, and obviously the applicant does have to come to get a variance for the pool. Can you kind of explain why, if there's a double front setback, why is the fence okay?
The fence is okay because it is not considered a building because there's no roof on it. Obviously, it's a fence, but it's not a building, so it does not have to meet the building setbacks. Fences cannot encroach on a front setback if it's in the front of the house. Obviously, this is a front setback. Why is that? Well, the house faces Westfield Court. And so when you have a situation where you have a corner lot, where you have a lot that has 2 road frontages on the front and back, as happens at times, certainly, a fence can be, if it's not on the house or the road frontage that the house faces, you can encroach on like a side or rear, which is technically to the side or rear of the house, even though it's a front setback. Then they can't encroach on the setback in that case. They can't go on the right of way, they still can't, in easements and those kind of things we have to be cognizant of. But as far as setbacks, they do not have to meet those setback requirements.
I mean, that's just good information for people to know. If you've got the corner lot and you've got the double front setback, that you can work on a fence if you wanted to. That's something you can work out as long as you're not encroaching and as long as there's no probably line of sight issue with the intersection.
Right, yeah, we would have to sort of look at that. If you're meeting the front setback on the side that the house faces, you're probably not gonna have a line of sight issue. But we did have to look at that too, so.
All right, thank you. It might come up, thought it'd be a good chance to talk about it.
Sure.
Awesome, thank you. I'll take this time to close the Board of Zoning Appeals and open a public hearing for anyone who would like to speak for or against this request. State your name and your address.
Stacy Robinson, 101 Westwood Court. I'm from the country, so I didn't know that we had to even have a permit for the pool, so I've already paid for half the pool before I knew I needed a permit. And so from the fence to the road, and I also learned that 10 feet of my property isn't really mine. So I've learned a lot during this process. So from the road to the fence is like 13 and a half feet. So I talked to Tom in Public Works, and that gives them plenty of room if they needed to do something there. And really, I mean, nobody can even know that there's a pool back there. We have like a small 12-foot pool, but our kids are bigger and outgrown that, and so Tom and Mitch both didn't see a problem with it. Mitch is the one who said because of the 2 setbacks. I didn't know anything about that. I didn't know I had 2 front yards. So they said just that's the reason. And to bring it to y'all and see what you said. So I've already paid for half the pool, so I don't know what to do now.
All good. Anybody have any questions for Stacy? No. Thank you. Anybody else speak for or against? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing, and reopen the Board of Zoning Appeals. Any questions or discussions?
This application is one we've approved several times for the exact scenario. Literally exactly the same scenario. So I'm going to go ahead and move for the approval of the front setback variance of 35 feet for the pool.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Motion granted. Number 4?
I have another question. So do I come tomorrow to get the permit? Or?
Yes.
You'll come see
You can
them
come
tomorrow.
talk to Christie or her department.
Okay, Kevin.
Yeah, next request is from Angelise Stanford, 518 Summerfield Drive. This is in an R1 district. It's on Summerfield Drive. It also is a corner lot, house west frontage on Eaton Road. The request is for 14 feet front setback variance along Eaton Road for a carport to be placed about 26 feet from the front property line. The property is zoned R1, low-density residential, is about 6,207 acre in size, does have 2 front setbacks to meet on Summerfield Drive and Eaton Road. This, again, is similar to what we just looked at on the previous request, it is a 35-foot requirement. However, when this plat was recorded in 1973, a 40-foot setback was required. There is a 10-foot drainage easement on the eastern property line, which is to remain clear, is not proposed to be encroached upon. The applicant is requesting to build a 20 by 20 or 400 square foot carport to be placed on top of an existing concrete slab off the original driveway. The house was constructed roughly 52 feet setback off the front parcel line on Eaton Road. There are 2 existing detached sheds, which total 320 square feet in size. The maximum detached accessory structure is 800 square feet, so they're still within their requirements there. Again, similar reasoning as far as needs to be considered for the granting of a variance, so I'll go through those. Again, number 1, physical surrounding shape, topographic conditions of the property, which would result in a particular hardship on the owner, other than a mere inconvenience, must be stated. Staff does find the property doesn't have anything unique in regards to physical surrounding shape or topographic conditions. Number 2, the conditions upon which the petition for a variance is based would not be applicable generally to other property in the same district. This property is a corner lot. It has 2 front setbacks to meet for any structure. In addition, at the time the plat was recorded, 40-foot setback was required versus 35, which would be the requirement today. Number 3, the variance will not authorize activities in the zone district other than those permitted, and so obviously the carports are certainly allowed in this district, so that's not an issue here. Financial returns only shall not be considered. The property owner has not identified financial returns as a reason for the variance. Number 5, the alleged difficulty or hardship has not been created by any person having interest in the property after the effective date of the ordinance. The applicant is the homeowner but was not involved with the creation of the lot or the construction of the residence. Number 6, the granting the variance requested would not confer on the applicant any special privilege as denied by the ordinance to other land, structures, or buildings. Staff finds that the variance requested could provide the applicant special privilege denied by the ordinance to other lands due to a structure encroaching upon a front setback. Again, other properties in single-family residential zoning districts have requested variances from the BZA in previous years in similar situations and have received approval. Number 7, the variance is the minimum that will make possible the reasonable use of the land, building, or structure. Staff finds the requested setback variance may be the minimum to make reasonable use of this structure for the proposed use due to the location of the driveway. The granting of the variance would not be detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to other property improvements in the area, and we would find it would not be detrimental to the public welfare in this instance. Number 9, the proposed variance will not impair an adequate supply of light and air to adjacent property, increase congestion in public streets, increase danger of fire, safety, endanger public safety, or diminish or impair property values. Staff finds the variance will not have any of those effects. Again, number 10 is not applicable in this case. So in conclusion, staff does find this property is a corner lot in which 2 front setbacks are required to be met for any structure. At the time of recording the plat for this subdivision, a 40-foot setback was required compared to 35 feet required today. If approved, the carport would be approximately 40 feet from the edge of pavement on Eaton Road and 26 feet from the parcel line. And do have a few pictures. This is looking at the front of the house from Summerfield Drive. And then this is just a little shifted a little bit that shows the area. There's a city car there that I was in, and then there's the applicant's vehicle there. The carport would actually be behind where that vehicle is located. But this would be the view from Summerfield. And this is the property looking at it from Eaton Road. You can see the area you can see the basketball going kind of to the left there. Where there's a concrete slab there, and that is where the proposed carport is proposed to be located. And I believe that is all that I have.
Thanks, Kevin. At this time, we'll close the Board of Zoning Appeals and open the public hearing for anyone who would like to speak for or against this request. Please state your name and address.
Hi, my name is Angelique Stanford. I live at 518 Summerfield Drive. I'm speaking for the carport, obviously, but mainly the thing is that we have 40-foot easements, and we actually measured up to, the easement actually is in the middle of where he's parked right there. So it comes like short of our garage. So the front one comes to our sidewalk, which it's really basically the house is right at the easement. So if we were gonna put any kind of carport or anything else there on the property, it would have to be in our backyard. And so, which would, reduce our usable space, and so that's really kind of the only place we could put it. And so I've just asked for you guys to consider being favorable towards this, because we won't be able to do it otherwise.
And it looks like you came in to get your permits before you did it, is that right?
We did,
Thank you.
yeah.
I really mean that. Thank you very much, because a lot of what we have to hear is a terrible situation that a structure's half built, so
Yeah.
thank you very much.
Yep, that's all.
Anybody else have any questions?
Man, we lose half the basketball court, though. I'm a little disappointed right now.
Basketball court disappears.
Probably gonna have
Well,
to
I'm
do that
assuming
so
if
we
the
can keep that.
carport's going up, the cars are going under the carport, so maybe they'll skip the
I
basketball.
like the wide court.
Indoor. I'll go ahead and, anybody else want to speak for or against? Seeing none, I will go ahead and close the public hearing and reopen the Board of Zoning Appeals. Do we have any discussions or?
Only if we need to include Scott's comment that a new basketball goal has to be located on the, with the.
Jeff, I think we need to put that in.
Let's put it in spirit.
Do I have a motion?
If I can find it. Yes, I make a motion to approve based on the two front setbacks with the recording of the plat at the time for was 40 and was required compared to the 35. Is that anything else? We good on that?
Sounds good to me.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Motion carries. Thank you.
So like the last person asked, do I come to you?
Okay. Next on the agenda, we have a sign variance, Kevin.
Yeah, this is actually a request from the town. It's 5650 West Jefferson Pike. C2 is the zoning district. This is the location of the new fire station, which is under construction. And this is a sign ordinance variance, a request for a ground sign setback to be, it's required to be 10 foot, so it would be for a 10-foot variance. So it allows the sign to be placed on the front property line. This is kind of due to the curvature of West Jefferson Pike and the placement of some overhead utility poles. If the ground sign were to be placed meeting setback requirements, visibility would be obstructed from one of those utility poles for traffic traveling westbound. In addition, the distance from the front property line to the edge of pavement on West Jefferson Pike is about 68 feet. If the sign were to meet setbacks, it would be about 78 feet off the edge of pavement. So for the standards for variances are a little different in the sign ordinance, so I will go through those though. For an action granting a variance, the board just has to state these. Number A there, the particular surrounding shape or topographic conditions of the specific property involved would result in a hardship upon the owner as distinguished from an inconvenience. Staff does find that the curvature of West Jefferson Pike, in addition to the overhead utility poles, do have the potential to interfere with signage visibility. B, the conditions upon which the petition for variance is based would not be applicable to other similarly situated properties. There is no other properties in this area that have developed at this time, but we would look at it again because of the curvature of that road there. It does provide some uniqueness there. C, the hardships not being created by any person having an interest in the property. The town is the developer of this property. The curvature of the road and the right-of-way there is really a result of TDOT's widening of the road there in that location. Financial returns only shall be considered, and obviously we have looked at that. It's not a reason we have requested the variance. The variance would not be detrimental to the public welfare and just to other property and intent and spirit of the ordinance. Staff does find the variance would not have any of those effects, as the signage will be located about 68 feet off the edge of the pavement on West Jefferson Pike. Variances confer special privilege to the applicant that's not designed to others. We find that the signs are allowed per the sign ordinance. However, it does restrict the location for setbacks as to where the sign may be placed on the property. Staff does find the subject property is situated, again, about 68 feet off the future edge of pavement for West Jefferson Pike when completed. If a variance is approved, visibility for motorists would not be impeded, and as an emergency service facility, sign visibility is important. And I'll also point out, it's not in our report, but this is a fire station, and obviously that's what it's going to be. But it's actually going to have some functions beyond just being a fire station. We're going to have some meeting space there, and meeting rooms that certainly the community may end up using, the town may end up using. It's also anticipated that if there's any future situations, such as, hopefully not, and we know no one wishes for this to happen certainly, but another similar situation what we have with COVID or something like that, that this would be a location where you could have some, because of the additional room there with the meeting rooms and the spaces there, you could have some, utilize it as for community, clinics for shots and things like that. So, and so that's kind of what is, and the reason again for the signage is important and visibility is important there. Do have a few pictures. This is from Jefferson, the new section of Jefferson Pike. It's not in use yet. And then this is looking at, this is from kind of the adjoining property there. this kind of gives you an idea, again, where the edge of the pavement is there on Jefferson Pike and where the property boundary is roughly where that, the fence is. So that kind of gives you an idea of where it would actually be located, distance from the road there. So that's all that we got.
Thanks, Kevin. Quick question for Kevin. At this time, I'll close the Board of Zoning Appeals and open a public hearing for anyone who would like to speak for or against. I don't see any, so I will close the public hearing and reopen the Board of Zoning Appeals. Do we have any questions?
Tonight has been filled with topography issues. And that's the case I see on this one. And as it's so eloquently written, as an emergency service facility, sign visibility is paramount. I can't think of a better way to sum that up. There is a topography issue. You got where you're going to put it, and there's a pole. It needs to be seen. That's enough for me to move to approve a ground sign setback variance of 10 feet for the sign to be placed on the front property line.
Okay. I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries and
There
the
should have
setback is
included
approved.
the public welfare, being important to that. But it was just so well written.
Kevin, do we have any staff comments and or other business?
I do not have anything else.
Then we stand adjourned. Thank you.